Hello, you're listening to Storytelling Saga, the podcast that shares stories. I'm your host, Allie, and this week I'm discussing ChalkZone, created by Bill Burnett and Larry Huber. And this was one of several Nicktoons that got its start on Oh Yeah Cartoons, produced by Fred Seibert. There was also The Fairly Odd Parents and My Life as a Teenage Robot. And I remember when this one in particular premiered, it aired back in 1998, though the series itself didn't premiere on Nickelodeon until March 22nd, 2002. But when the series premiered, they put back in the old shorts, like in flashbacks. So in the flashbacks, Rudy is 8 years old, whereas in the series, he is 10 years old. And I loved also the fact that Rudy is voiced by E.G. Daly, aka Tommy Pickles. And obviously she's known for so many other stuff, but that's just her main thing she's known for, though, Tommy Pickles. And probably second is Buttercup from the Powerpuff Girls. So I loved that, though. And I just always loved the concept of this show, that ChalkZone, everything that is erased on the blackboard goes into ChalkZone. Such an imaginative, fun, creative concept. I just really love it. Even now as an adult, it's just such a fun idea that anything you create, you draw it on the chalkboard, then you erase it, then your creation comes to life. That's such a fun thing for kids. My God, I just really, really love it, because everything is just endless abilities and opportunities in ChalkZone, and that Rudy, because Rudy's got the chalk, as we all know, whatever he draws, he can just use it in ChalkZone, so just whatever they need at the time. And they also, because the show is so fast-paced, since more often than not it has the 3 segments instead of the 2, there are occasionally the 2 segment episodes, and then also a couple of half-hour episodes, but for the most part it's just those quick 7-minute stories, so it's just some kind of problem that escalates super quickly in ChalkZone, and then Rudy has to solve it somehow, and it just makes it a lot of fun. And it's a shame that this show didn't really last as long as other Nicktoons. It only ran for 4 seasons with a total of 40 episodes, which is decent. It's not that bad. I mean, you look at Invader Zim, that was only a season and a half, and then, that show's still huge to this day. But this show is just, again, it's such a fun, really honestly a sweet show to me. The characters are just really great. We have, of course, Rudy to Booty, what a name. That's funny. And then his creation, Snap, voiced by Candy Milo. Snap, I think, was my favorite character as a kid. He's just this blue ninja superhero type character, and for some reason he speaks with a mid-Atlantic or New Jersey accent. It's just so funny. And then I found this thing online, this blurb about it, that made me laugh. It says, Snap has a Bronx accent, however, in some episodes it's Brooklyn or Jersey, and for no reason, bucko, as no one else in the show got one. That's true. Like, why? That's just so funny. Oh my goodness. And Candy Milo, too. She's voiced, all these voice actors. They voice hundreds and hundreds of characters. She also took over the role of Dexter, of Dexter's Laboratory, when the late Christine Cavanaugh had retired from voice acting in 2001. She voiced so many characters. She's voice of Madame Foster and Cheese in Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, hundreds of other things. And it's funny because then in hindsight, when Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends premiered, that was on Cartoon Network, of course, but created by Craig McCracken, who created Powerpuff Girls. I'll talk about that show at some point, both of those, because they're fantastic. But anyway, that kind of vaguely reminds you of Snap because, Blue, he's Blue, Snap, and that's like similar with that. It's all the imaginary friends, so Mac, the creator, and then with this, Rudy and Snap. So there's similarities there. That show, too, such an imaginative, fun concept. But again, with this show, just all of the drawings coming to life, it's just so great. And as a kid, though, I remember thinking there should be way more letters and numbers in ChalkZone, because when we go to school, that's just all that's written on the board. Just words and letters and numbers for math problems. That's about it. But it's just still, that's just, there is that stuff in ChalkZone. It's just like a number dump and a letter dump of stuff, but it's too funny. So with Rudy just being the great artiste, that, like, how he stumbles on ChalkZone accidentally when he's writing cartoons are not funny, why is that a punishment? That's just so dumb, writing things over and over, very Bart Simpson. But then when he just picks up the white lightning chalk and then draws the O in cartoons, and then he just discovers ChalkZone. And that's amazing because he had drawn Snap, and then just when the Reggie Bullnerd guy erased it into ChalkZone. Reggie Bullnerd is kind of a dumb character to me. There's really nothing particularly, it's just, and it's really on the nose with bull, nerd, bully, and a nerd, okay? Also voiced by Candy Milo. But that's the thing, some of these characters, like everyone in ChalkZone, that's what's the most interesting thing to me about the show. Everything else just kind of just a standard family, like, you know, they live in Plainsville, whatever it is, so that's funny. And then there's the teacher, Mr. Wilter, who for some reason hates cartoons, and that's kind of sad to me, though, that the fact that Rudy isn't necessarily encouraged with his art, that everyone's always kind of like, oh, don't draw these, particularly the teacher, and the parents a little bit too. It's like, oh, son, you should be out playing, too much drawing and whatever. That's kind of a little sad. The parents, though, they're very sweet. Joe and Millie, and Joe is voiced by Jess Harnell, aka Wacko Warner, and hundreds of other characters, so that's funny. And Millie is voiced by the woman who played the secretary in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. That's cool to me. What's funny is that I remember the mom. I remembered her with, like, when she would do the random opera stuff, like Rudy, like whatever. I didn't remember that the dad is a butcher. I didn't remember that at all. So really with this show, the main things I remembered was ChalkZone and certain characters. Like, I remembered Blocky, Rudy's first drawing. That's cute, too. And Snap saying how, personally, I like how your drawing skills have improved since then. And Rudy had also drawn the granny in the bathtub. Like, so all of these things that just live on forever in ChalkZone. And it's weird how just whatever is drawn then. So if it's drawn, like, with the Reggie Bullnerd bully thing, then because it's angry looking, then it's like an evil thing. So it's weird how there are kind of things that just attack things in ChalkZone. Like, you would think that all just kind of live in harmony, but there's always these dangers within ChalkZone. Then there was Biclops, who used to be Cyclops, but then Rudy drew a second eye for him, so he becomes Biclops. And just all of this really fun, great stuff. And I just love it. And then, of course, there's also Penny Sanchez, voiced by Hynden Walsh, who is Rudy's best friend. And she's the genius of the group. And so often they just call her Genius Girl, like whether disparagingly or not. Oh, the Genius Girl. That just kind of defines her personality. She's just, yeah, she's smart. That's pretty much it. But so she's more into the sciences and he's more into art. So that's cute with the art and science and the matchup there. And what I liked about their dynamic, Rudy and Penny, that they're best friends. And right off the bat, when we're introduced to Penny, when she's a new student and she's giving her report, and Rudy's the only one who's interested. And then afterwards, when he shows his comic book about his adventures with Snap, and then the teacher's like, oh, this is a cartoon, it's supposed to be a written assignment, so then he has to redo his assignment. And then when she's sitting with him during lunch, and then she's interested in, like, hearing about his adventures with Snap, with the whole thing with that bubblegum spider thing. So again, like, all these creative things that they can just make up within ChalkZone is so much fun. So with those two, the fact that they have such admiration for each other's talents and have such respect for each other, like, he always calls her a genius and she's always in awe of his artistic talent. It's really cute. And also just the fact that they both like each other, and that's not a big deal. It's just, yeah, they like each other. It's not a whole, like, secret or anything. They're best friends, they like each other, but they're kids, so it's just really cute. So I find that cute, like, looking back on that now as an adult, that, you know, it's, like, clearly they both like each other, and it's just whatever. And then Snap was kind of jealous at first, like, Rudy, who's the girl? Like, his accent, I love his accent, it's so funny. He talks like a newsie, like, you know, like, perfect. Like, gosh. Snap's so funny. And Snap, it's funny that he just loves adventure, and it's just always, oh, come on, bucko. I didn't realize he has all these catchphrases, because I didn't realize how often he says, Rudy, you gotta draw something. He says that, like, almost every episode, like, whether they're in danger or just, Rudy, you gotta draw something, just all the time. And he calls Rudy bucko, and he also says a lot, oi koloi. I never noticed that either, which I guess just another one of those random rhyming, kind of like holy guacamole type phrases, so that's cute too. And he has a crush on Queen Rapsheba, and he always says, "Oh, Queenie, I'd do anything for you." But, honestly, like, that's true, but it's clear that he would do anything for Rudy, which is really sweet. He often was just like, "Oh, yeah, sure, Bucko, whatever, like, he'll do anything for him, help him out," and Rudy's always saving Snap, and because since he has the chalk, he knows that it's up to him to protect ChalkZone, and also, there are times when Penny saves Snap. So with Penny and Snap, how they kind of didn't get along at first because Snap kind of saw her. He was just like, "Oh, who's this girl?" He was jealous of her. But then they come to have their own little friendship too, and that the three of them then become this kind of dynamic trio, which is cute. So I like that. And also then later on he started calling her Buckette, so that's cute too. Bucko, Buckette. So that's sweet. And there's just certain episodes I remembered, and then a lot of them I hadn't even seen before when I was just watching a bunch of episodes. I actually started with the Christmas episode, which I hadn't seen before, and it's weird though, because I did remember the song Merry Chris Hanukkah, so and that's a whole other thing. All the music in this show is great. Of course, let's just even pause and talk about the theme song. Love that theme song, even with the repetitive Rudy's got the chalk, but it's just such a fun rock theme song. It's such a great theme song, and the music was done by Guy Moon, who also did the music for Fairly Odd Parents. So love that theme song, and love all the music in the show with all of those little music videos at the end, which is kind of a separate thing from all of the episodes, just with their own little quick 1-minute thing, and so many great songs with those. I'll put a little medley here.
Oh, bounce a little, walk a little, give a little shake, ring a little, jingle like a little earthquake. Now you're doing the mumbo jumbo jive, rocking and bouncing all over the place. Turn a little, twist a little, make a funny face. Now you're doing the mumbo jumbo jive. We're making faces, there's so many here to try. We're making faces, are you giving me the eye? How do I look to? How do I look to you? Come to life, come to life, come to life. Come to life, come to life, come to life. Come to life, come to life, come to life. Come into life. We're going all the way to the top. We're going all the way to the top. We're standing tall, and we're not gonna stop. We're going all the way to the top. When my stars are not aligning, and my luck seems at an end, and there are no silver linings, I just wait till the golden thumb comes up again. When my fortune cookie's empty, and my rabbit's full house round the bend, I don't let dark spirits tempt me. I just wait till the golden thumb, wait till the golden thumb, wait till the golden thumb comes up again. I'll just wait till the golden thumb comes up again.
Like, just really fun little songs, little catchy tunes, and again, ones that I hadn't even heard, like that Golden Thumb one, that's a really nice one, and just really fun music. So one episode I did remember though was that episode with when Joe wanted that vacuum cleaner because, like, to use it at the deli that he works at because he's a butcher, which I didn't remember that. So he wanted to clean up the meat gristles, as he said, and he's like so excited for this electric vacuum cleaner, and then Rudy hides it in ChalkZone, and then of course it's a text chalk dust so that it's sucking up all of ChalkZone, and so then that's again a realistic thing that it within the world of ChalkZone, that it's taking over all of ChalkZone. There's just a strip left, and then Rudy uses the pin from the card, the little tag that the mom had made to add to the gift, so then when he pops in, then all of ChalkZone comes back. And there was also a chalk drawing of his dad that he made. I didn't remember that either. Just all of this really fun, great things, that this sense of adventure, and it's just, really, really fun. Again, the world of ChalkZone, I just keep fawning over that because I love that. There wasn't really any ongoing things in this show, though, which for the most part in cartoons in general, it's just kind of one-off episodic things. But one ongoing thing a little bit was Penny and Rudy wanting to kind of put together a book about the flora and fauna of ChalkZone. And then there was an episode I hadn't seen, which was the only hour special, called The Big Blow Up, where they go into this whole thing where they meet this encyclocentopedia guy who knows about all of ChalkZone, and then the zoners, as they call them, are all suffering from this disease, balloon mania, whatever it is, I already can't remember, but that they're all blown up, and then they have to put the guy back together when all of his things come apart, because it was like ABC, because he's an encyclopedia, and he keeps saying this thing, knowledge is power, power is pain, if you don't understand that, I don't have time to explain. And then Rudy wanting to save ChalkZone and ward off these bug things that he had accidentally let out or whatever. It's just funny. And then there are moments in this show here and there that kind of made me laugh, made me smile, but one moment in that episode, which again I hadn't seen before until now, was when Penny and Snap had gotten eaten alive by something, and then Snap's like, I'm tingly all over, and Penny's like, me too, and then Snap says, do you think that means we're in love? That's just funny to me. He's just like, no, it's from this, whatever it was, the saliva from, it's just funny. But then what's cute is that when they are in danger, they're going into this whirlpool thing, and then Rudy's like, I could save us, but I'd have to draw you with wings. Do you mind if I change you? And then the Centopedia guy is like, wings or whatever. It's like, okay, I'll take the wings. So it was cute. I don't know, it was really cute. And the Christmas one was really sweet too, with Rudy kind of needing to find his Christmas cheer, and then he wanted these great pens, and then at the end he gets the pen, he's like, I'm gonna share them with Sophie, his little cousin Sophie, which is so cute, voiced by Grey Delisle Griffin, and his Aunt Tilly was also voiced by Grey Delisle Griffin. And I forgot about, I remembered Sophie, because there was an episode where she accidentally goes into ChalkZone, and a little 2.5-year-old drawing all these, little scribbles, as they call it, steel wool, and then he's kind of getting jealous, they're just scribbles, and then he's like, oh, wow, Soph, then he's, seeing how she's just drawing things, you didn't even draw that accidentally, and then Snap's like, well, Bucko, you weren't such a great artist when you were a kid, I'm sure you drew your fair share of scribbles, so him realizing that, she can be an artist one day too, so, with his little flaws, but for the most part, Rudy's just a great kind of every kid protagonist, except he's got these great artist skills. I remember as a kid being kind of jealous, he could draw so well and so fast. There was never a point where Rudy came to a point where he couldn't draw, he could draw anything. There's never I don't know how to draw that. That was never ever the case with Rudy. So that's what was clever with all of these in cartoons in particular, with especially slapstick cartoons where they just have pop-up props, that in this show he just can draw the props. And I do remember also that back in 2002 when the show had first premiered, and I used to go on Nickelodeon message boards. That was the same year when Hey Arnold's the movie came out, so I was into the message boards then, and people were so excited for the movie. I remember that. But with this show, I remember someone had asked a question, which it turns out was answered in the show, because again, it was an episode I hadn't seen, but someone asked the question, if you draw a piece of food in ChalkZone, does it taste like chalk or does it taste like food? And it turns out the answer is that to humans it tastes like chalk, but to the ChalkZoners it tastes like food, because there was that episode when they're looking at this cookie tree in ChalkZone, and then Snap eats all the cookies, and then when Penny and Rudy eat it, it just tastes like chalk to them. So that's funny too. And I remember that, though, someone asking that and a whole debate about it. That's funny. And another episode I loved, though, as a kid was The Smooch. And rewatching, I was like, oh, yeah, I could see why I loved this as a kid. And I still really love it. But, because there's so many great stuff. There's, all these cute, even just the foliage of ChalkZone. Or in another episode with those things, those wiggies that eat human hair. But when they're playing with that accordion worm, that's cute, too. But in The Smooch with those palm, like, look, Rudy, palm trees, and it's just trees with palms waving, which was cute. And then the haha men, aka Baha men, you know, we are the haha men, and so cute. And they're looking for the smooch, this big birds, and then when it smooches, snap, and then he's laughing hysterically. And then at one point he's like, Penny, those glasses. That made me laugh for some reason, because it just was funny. And then he smooches Penny, and then she starts laughing hysterically. And then I remembered this as a kid. Then Rudy's like, "Oh, Rudy, you're gonna get smooched next." And he's like, "Oh, but I've never been kissed by anyone but my mom and my Aunt Tilly." And then he draws that peanut butter and jelly trapper thing. And then he's like, "Oh," and then he's like, "Oh, no, I gotta help my friend." And then he's like, "Penny, wait." But then they go into that thing and it closes, the peanut butter and jelly. So then when it opens, then he's laughing. So then it's implied that she kissed him. So I remember that as a kid thinking, oh, so they kissed, but we didn't see it. That's clever, or whatever I thought as a kid. I don't know. I remember as a kid thinking that was clever, though. That, you know, you leave it open to imagination, you know? I do remember that. And then the whole thing with you put the lime in the coconut, which is an actual song. As a kid, I didn't know that, but that's cute. So I did, that was one of my favorite episodes as a kid, and just so much great stuff. Again, all of the different concepts in ChalkZone and other episodes. So what's funny is that in season 4, they updated the arts, like the character designs a little bit. They looked the same, but for some reason they had different outfits slightly, Penny and Rudy, and slightly different with the coloring, like with the outlines. That was just, I wonder why with that. Maybe it was different studio, I don't know, but for the most part it looked similar, but that just was interesting to me. They looked slightly older, kinda, I don't know. Oh, and that reminds me, this jumped out at me watching episodes later on in the series, episodes that I hadn't seen with Penny and Rudy, that legitimately to me, if no one had seen this show and you just showed them this show and said, oh yeah, these two are a couple, it wouldn't even change anything. To me, it's like they kind of act like a couple, even though they're best friends, and yet they say like they're best friends, but just certain things that kind of jumped out at me, like the fact that they hold hands a lot. And there was one episode where they go into this, like, they go into ChalkZone to go to this ball, whatever it was, the very tall ball, something like that, whatever. And then Rudy's like, "Milady," and then Snap's like, she's like, "Oh, why thank you, Rudy," and then Snap's like, "Oh, I'm gonna hurl," or something that he says, I don't know, but then there's also an episode where, again, he's relaying a story to Penny, and it's like reminiscent of in season 1 when he was doing that with his little comic book. And then in this one, it's like with these eyeball things that with Snap and Rudy, when they had them on, then like these eyeball things were just seeing what they wanted them to see. So like instead of these snakes, it was like, oh, these giant Twizzler things and whatever. And they're just like, it's like they're on a date. I don't know. To me, it just like kind of stood out to me like that. It was weird. Like they were just like sitting at a park bench drinking milk, and he's just telling her this story. It's really cute. But what I'm saying is, though, like they're friends, obviously, because like the thing is, like, they're 10 years old, they're kids, so it's like you say that they're a couple or they're not, it just kind of doesn't really, like if you're a kid and you have like a boyfriend, quote unquote, it's just like that doesn't really mean anything. But then apparently as the series went on, that when it ended, they were gonna eventually, like, in the future, they would have gotten married, I guess. They would have started dating and gotten married, which, that's cute. But also, apparently in the finale, that was never made, that Snap was going to realize that eventually with Rudy growing up, he'd be going to ChalkZone less and less. So that's kind of bittersweet. That's sad. But that's the nature. It's very Toy Story that, you know, when kids grow up, they stop playing with the toys then, and they outgrow it, and that's just the way things are. But I'm sure maybe, who knows, that maybe then when Penny and Rudy got married, then maybe they had a couple of kids, and then those kids started going to ChalkZone. You know, maybe if they had a daughter, and then the daughter around Rudy's age, like, you know, that would have been cute. Who knows? But again, with all the interesting concepts. So the thing with the eyeballs was really cool. There's a thing with that mother tongue, who then when she licked them, then they all were speaking in gibberish, and then Penny was speaking gibberish. She had to do the speech contest, and then she had to get licked again to be able to speak normally. And we met Penny's mom. I don't know if we never met Penny's dad, as far as I know, but that's really cute. So again, just really cute, fun stuff in this show. And again, just Penny and Rudy, I just find them adorable. And Penny and Snap, I think that interesting dynamic, like later on, with like her saving him a lot too. There was the whole thing with that thing like when they go to New Year's Eve and then all time is standing still in ChalkZone, and then there was this father, like the grandfather guy who wants the whole tower to himself, and with the baby and all that. Just all these really interesting characters in ChalkZone. So again, just a really fun, cute series with nice characters. Like Snap was always doing this fun stuff. Like he had, like every once in a while there was episodes about just Snap in ChalkZone, like those little quick episodes. So him with the car, like the talking car that would just take him anywhere, and when he had a mustache randomly, all this random stuff, when he was kind of a news reporter sometimes. There was an episode where, there was an episode actually when Rudy has a crush on Queen Rapshiba's creator, but she's like much older. She's like, oh no, little man, I'm too old for you, and she just was kind of humoring him a little bit. And then after she just goes back to Penny. He's like, oh, Penny, oh, here, let me carry those for you. And then, like, it was just really cute. And then she's like, oh, Rudy, you know I'm always your biggest fan. And they're just, again, they're just so cute, the two of them. Oh, and also I remember as a kid, there was some part where early on in these series when Penny first goes to ChalkZone, with her formula, that's right, when her formulas are erased. And then she's like going on and on about something, and then Rudy's just like, I love it when she talks like that. And then Snap's like, yeah, but what does it all mean? Like, you know. So again, like just the openness of it, I find it cute. I think that's kind of more needed in general for kids to know that it's okay if you have a crush on your friend. Like, you know, it's cute, the two of them. It really was just kind of them against the world. They didn't really have any other friends with the classmates. It was just that bull nerd kid, but that was it for the most part. And it's weird too, because sometimes Snap would go into the real worlds. That's kind of interesting to me too, that the fact that he could exist outside of ChalkZone, when Rudy was still in ChalkZone and then Snap was just in the classroom with them. So that was funny too. And I was gonna do a whole bit where, can Snap snap? But actually it turns out he can snap, and he has snapped before. So, because even though he's got like mitts on, little gloves. Oh, and I remember too the Doofy. You remember Penny, and when I start talking about shows, then I remember all this other stuff about it. But with the Rudy and Penny, Doofus Rudy and Penny, and then Rudy, like that was funny too. There was the thing with the dumb dart with Rudy, but the Doofus Penny, the Doofus Rudy, because then later on in the series there were some episodes here, and then there was Responsible Reggie, but with Rudy and Penny, and like the dumb Rudy still being an artist, and the Doofus Penny being this scientist, but she just would like make up words and terms, and they both were just like doing kissy faces to each other, and like it was cute. Goodness. And I forgot also there's Scrawl, who was like supposedly Rudy's draw, but really it was just everyone that just drew to make this weird evil lima bean jelly bean thing. And he's voiced by Jim Cummings, and he would sing sometimes too. He would just always want the chalk, and you know, some of those random villains in ChalkZone. So just, oh my goodness, just so much fun, creative, really interesting stuff within this show. Oh, and a couple of other episodes I wanted to mention that had really interesting concepts. Again, episodes that I hadn't seen before until now. One was called The Smudgies, with these half-erased chalk drawings. So within ChalkZone, it's as if they are ghosts, because they're not fully in ChalkZone. So it was this little boy and girl ghost, and they were haunting Queen Rapshiba. And then Rudy had to go and find the chalkboard where they had been drawn so that he could fully erase them so they can go into ChalkZone. So that was just an interesting concept, how not fully erased drawings, then they're kind of just in chalk purgatory in a way, so it's as if they're ghosts. So that was just weird and interesting. I liked that concept too. Just, again, playing around with the reality of ChalkZone is so fascinating. I really got a kick out of it. And another interesting one that I hadn't seen before was when they go to Whiteboard Zone. And first off, I don't even stop to think about why do we only use whiteboards in college? Because in elementary, middle school, high school, it's always chalkboards. So then why in college is it you still don't use chalkboards? I don't really get that, and I still don't. But, you know, I never really stopped to think about that before, but so it's just funny. So in the episode, though, he has a fever, and then in the beginning of the episode he's talking to Penny, so again it seems like they're a couple. I don't know, that's just, to me, it jumped out at me, but whatever. So he's talking to her on the phone, and then at one point she just pops up in the nightstand. She's like, oh, well, maybe, whatever she says. And then I'm thinking to myself, why? Like, is this bizarre choice that they went with? But okay. So it's like, is she really there or something? That was weird. But I guess not. I guess they just didn't want to do a split screen. I don't know. That was just an odd thing. But then they go to Whiteboard World within ChalkZone, and he draws a whiteboard marker out of chalk. So when they go into Whiteboard World, they see it's all just this very geometric world, and then the two characters are just sliding around because it's all squeaky and everything, and then they can't go back into ChalkZone because he drew the marker out of chalk, so it says if they're trapped. And then when they go back into the real world, it turns out he's having a fever dream. So that was just a really interesting, odd episode to me too. So I mean, what if there's maybe even canvas world, like say if you're doing a painting? That would have been interesting, other worlds besides just ChalkZone and Whiteboard Zone. Who knows, maybe there were other worlds within this reality of ChalkZone, the show. So again, I find these concepts and the whole universe of ChalkZone endlessly fascinating. It's just fantastic. So that's what I most enjoy about this show. It's just really great. So much really interesting stuff. And, it just puts a smile on my face. Just a really sweet, cute, fun show to revisit as an adult with all of those really fun, interesting concepts. And Rudy's got the chalk. And with that is going to conclude this week's episode of Storytelling Saga. As always, you can follow the podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Be sure to check out storytellingsaga.com, and feel free to send me any questions, comments, or writing prompts by emailing me at storytellingsaga@gmail.com. Next week, I thought I would talk about inciting incidents in any given story, so I'm going to be sharing tips on how to write a compelling, inciting incident. Until then, thank you for listening, and remember, write what you love.